Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So in this little presentation, we'll try to introduce you to the introduction of AI in EFSA systematic review. I will start basically just, this is what we're going to see. I will set a little bit the scene so that to understand also why systematic review is so important for EFSA. So that's, I think we can start. So just setting the scene, okay, what is EFSA? Just for the, maybe there are some of you that are not familiar with that, is the European Food Safety Authority. It was established in 2002 after a series of food crises, basically to improve the European food safety system. And basically one of the results is the separation of risk assessment and risk management in the European Union. And basically we are the reference body for risk assessment of food and feed in Europe. And we cover the entire food chain. And these are two basically implications that we receive a lot of different questions, and some of those questions are really broad. So it means that the question we receive need to be unpacked in several different questions that are connected to, let's say, underline some relation in order to that you are able to reply to the initial question that you receive. So how does it work? I mean, basically we just receive some questions, mainly from the European Commission, Parliament, Member States, also from ourselves. We like a lot asking ourselves questions. And then when this arrives, we need to produce a scientific opinion in support of European food and fish safety decision-making process and to communicate it. But if we look at the EFSA scientific process, assessment process per se, basically, we have a couple of phases. First of all, we try to plan what we're going to assess, and then we implement it. Of course, we can change as always possible along the way, provided there are justification. And looking at the planning phase, what we try to do, what I think everybody's trying to do nowadays, is that to try to understand what we have to assess. So basically, try to translate the mandate TOR into question and sub-question, which are connected with a conceptual model. And then what is also important is we need to try to specify how we are going to reply to that questions. So we need to specify the evidence needs and the methods for answering those individual sub-questions. And in that respect, we have basically, roughly speaking, 5 main sources of evidence that we are going to use. We can use it from bibliographic databases or from scientific literature or study reports, from non-bibliographic databases. We use also a lot of expert judgment. We use mathematical statistical models, and we also sometimes we generate de novo empirical evidence. This is happening very, very rarely because it's the last resort. We also try to use that is already present outside. However, the 2 main sources that we use in EFSA assessment are basically evidence from scientific literature or from non-bibliographic databases. And this is why basically the systematic review process is key in the EFSA assessments. And also you can also see that now how the systematic review was inspiring the EFSA scientific assessment process, because basically we have the 2 phases also here. We have the question formulation and protocol development, and then you try to implement what you have thought at the beginning in your plan. So, so what is the EFSA approach in the use of AI in scientific assessment? Let's say that formally it was everything starting in 2020 when there was the drafting of a concept paper on artificial intelligence in risk assessment. And basically this was a high-level paper that was just creating a vision for the use of AI on EFSA scientific assessment. And the vision was to increase the accessibility and breadth of the body of evidence in the EFSA opinion. And now very difficult for me to say, trustworthiness in risk assessment processes, and applying a human-centric AI inconsistent with user expertise. Okay, so after this, what was happening? So a couple of years afterwards, there was a publication of a roadmap that is a roadmap for action of artificial intelligence for evidence management in risk assessment, of which the objective was to identify projects to implement the 10-paper vision by 2027. So in that respect, in order to do that, the evidence management process in EFSA was analyzed and split into phases. An analysis of the market for the AI solution was performed. It also was an analysis of potential challenges and blockers. And then the final output was the provision of kind of horizontal and vertical recommendation for the implementation of AI in EFSA. So if we look at that, and if you look at this like building a kind of a house where you can use AI in the organization, we had two types of recommendations. The horizontal one that allows the operation of AI in the organization, and the vertical one that are basically that are specific to the evidence management, and they were split into different scenarios on the basis of vendor scenarios. So where use cases are already available on site on the market, and you can go out to the vendor and buy the solution. Where you have some use case that will need some kind of innovation procurements, and also some use case where you will have to provide some grants for research and innovation contest where you don't have already solution outside available that you can use. So where are we now? So far, we have explored all the vertical one scenarios. So we have already solutions and that are running into apps on that. We're still working on development operation. We're working still on AI governance. We're trying to define all this. We are trying to organize internally about that. Of course, we are working on in innovation procurement for instance, quality improvement of all scientific outputs. And we were doing an internal analysis on at which level applying ontologies in EFSA. So this will be the basis for the use of ontologies in EFSA in the future. Yeah, that's all. So at the moment. So with all this, where we have AI working in the systematic review process in EFSA nowadays. So if we look at the typical EFSA systematic review process with all the different steps, the platform that we use nowadays is called Distiller, doesn't matter the name, but it is where we put all the information and we try to use that. And typically we start from, like most of you, if you are familiar with systematic review, we start with search that have from few hundreds up to a lot of thousands, the 10,000, 20, 50, 60,000 papers that you start searching. And then when you select study, you go down to a few hundred, some thousand. And then you arrive at the end of the process with a few papers, some hundreds, no more than that. So at the moment, in the system, we are already applying some AI in let's say, 4 main steps. We can use AI when re-ranking the reference that we have to review, so that we put at the top of the list the one that are more likely to be, let's say, selected for inclusion. This is at the level of the screening phase. Also, we can do some error for check for errors when we have finished the screening process to highlight some possible references that would have been mistakenly classified. That couple of functions do not take any decision. There is no decision taken by the AI on the reference that we are going to perform. Then the next step is to have a function where there is already a decision that the AI takes on the reference that you are going to review. And for that, we have there are a couple of functions in the tool, which is one is related to the screening in total, a reference as being relevant or not. And the last one, that will say the more, let's say, the last one that was coming available is called classifying. So it classifies papers on the basis of an answer to specific questions. And that is, this is the function that we are using more and more, because basically it can work across different projects we have. It also guarantees a long-term reproducibility, while the previous solution does not guarantee a very long-term reproducibility. But behind that, if we look at the process per se, we are also having AI function entering into that, because we have AI function at the level of systematic review. Keywords identification. So when we want to run our search, our information specialists are using AI for identifying keywords in order to collect references, and also in the deduplication phase. And of course, in addition to the function that I was telling you before, what we are also trying to do is to develop manual for the use of these functions, because sometimes it's very difficult to, let's say, understand where the AI is going, and to try to steer the process, because it's difficult to understand the performance of what you're doing and to understand whether what you have at the end is fit for purpose in relation to what you would like to do. We have recently tried to use AI in risk of bias automation. We have just finalized a project where we use LLM to assist the critical appraisal of papers. And basically, in that case, what the tool does is just reading the paper and then extracting bit of paper that are relevant to a specific appraisal tool that you would like to apply in order to assess the validity of that particular paper for your question. What it does is basically, it does this, it's extract information, then it produces two types of outputs. One is the publication per se, where different sentences in the output are highlighted with different colors in relation to the critical appraisal question that you are to ask in yourself for the paper. So, for instance, are the animals, were the animals being randomized? We will start, for instance, with exploring the use of the tool in experimental animal studies and with the use of the NTP OAT critical appraisal tool. And so, for instance, when you have a question such as were the animal randomized, then the tool, what it does, it highlights in the paper all the places that have something to do with randomization with a specific color, for instance, yellow, while in the question related, would you be confident in the outcome assessment, it highlights those sentences with another color, could be red now, I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. So you have this output. And also the other way to produce an example is to have a little report where for each paper, under each of the questions that you ask in the critical appraisal tools, you have a report of the different sentences related to that. This is provided to the experts, so that could, let's say, speed up the process of appraising, doing critical appraisal of the papers. We are not yet there because the tool is promised, but it's not enough specific because it's extract too many sentences at the moment. What we try to do is basically to implement the tool in a different platform that will allow us a faster development of the tool, so to see whether we can improve about that. And then beside these solutions that are already there, in general, what we try to do is exploring the possibility to use models that are outside of the platform. So we do not rely only on that. This is the example, for instance, as already of this critical appraisal tool where we use an LLM that, of course, is not in it still SR. Sorry. So we try to facilitate the use of API because it's fundamental in order to build pipelines and to connect all the information. And also, we are also developing functions for training and assess the model that are in the platform, because sometimes this is not so it's not so easy to understand whether the model is providing you some performance that are at the level that you expect. And also, we try to basically to developing, we are developing an R package that try to facilitate all this, the use of API and also the modeling and understanding the performance of the model. And we are also building an internal user interface that will increase accessibility to this function for people that are not skilled, for instance, in coding. So the issue of the user interface, to having the possibility to use the model, also if you don't have the possibility to program is key, because that could basically increase the utilization of these functions. So now the next question is that, are we willing to use AI? And okay, last year we were trying to do a little survey internally in EFSA, capturing all the projects in this dealer that from 2020 till September last year. And basically we were capturing all the EFSA questions that were making use of a systematic review. And so there were basically under 25 projects. And then we we were trying to ask a little questionnaire to the people that were responsible for those projects in distiller. So we were covering at the end a little bit more than 100 projects, which of course they were giving rise to more than 170 scientific outputs. And the first thing we noticed is that the AI is already used, let's say, in 1/3 of the project. And of course, the more reference we have, the more AI used. Now, I didn't have the data now to revise this graph here on the right, and where basically a big project is classified as having more than 2,000 reference, which is not really a big project for me, but I can assure you that when we arrive to something like 10,000 reference, all the projects are using AI. So this is very logical, because basically when you have a very little project, first of all, you may not have enough information to train the model that you would like to use. And also, to use a model, you need to validate it. You need to understand what is delivering performance that are appropriate to you. So this takes time. And maybe sometimes you can spend less time in screening manually, for instance, or doing some work manually, instead of spending the time in understanding whether the model works well or not. Then the question where we asked to the people that basically were already using AI was whether they were satisfied and confident with the work that the result provided by the AI. And basically the results were positive. Everybody was happy for various reasons: time saving, human resource efficiency. We are always, everything is connected. We are always speaking about time, people, etc. On the other hand, we were also asking all those people, also the ones that were not using AI, if they were basically considering using AI tool in the future. And that's also in this case, the reply was positive. Also, the people that were not using AI before were really considering to using this functionality in future, because they see the advantages in any case. So overall, in a certain sense, these very high personal positive answers suggest a kind of readiness to use AI in future in the organization, besides the technical aspect and the fact that the organization is ready from a technical point of view. Now, the final question, are we there yet? Well, you have seen that we are still working on AI governance, DevOps. We have still a lot of projects that are running. So not really, we are not really there. Hopefully we will be arriving by 2027. However, also the other question that I ask myself is if we will ever be there, because my impression is that in any case we are probably in a very long journey here, and even when we have all the technicalities ready in the organization, where there are also some practical aspects that need to be considered in consideration, in addition to the fact that things are evolving very fast. For instance, this year, I think one of the main problems that we were experiencing is having the possibility to, let's say, use AI on on papers that we were regularly purchasing from the user resource for bibliographic database, etc. Because today's they are a little bit reluctant in basically submit those processes to an AI model. One of the things that we were told is that, okay, but then who guarantees us that this information will not be used to train the model, so that some people will make money about that? And so it's very difficult to convince the people that are providing you the papers in giving you the permission to use that. So you need to go one by one, and you need to demonstrate that the contracts you have in place do not allow the use of this information to train the model, and then yourself as a public organization, you are not going to use the model to make money about that. It's simple, but in any case, it takes a lot of time. And also, I think we also have to consider that if, for instance, looking at the AI Act, we are always open operate a little bit in this area of high risk because the decision we take basically may have an impact on health. So it's very difficult. So we need to be very cautious in the implementation of such measures. So that's all. I would like to thank my colleague Ermanno and Jelle for sharing some of the slides, and of course all of you for your attention. If you have any question, happy to reply.